You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching the Meta Show.
We're here.
Yes, we're live. I didn't break it.
That's fantastic. Well, welcome everybody to the Meta Show. We have an interesting special here today. We have 3 guests from Snuffed Out who are going to be guiding us through some of the recent hilarious fights that Snuff has been a part of. I have to say that while Snuffed Out did leave the Imperium, they seem to keep killing our enemies over and over again in more spectacular ways. So can't really complain too much.
We finally got certain Snuff people on here. I've been trying to get on here for a long time. But,
Zalman for 11 months. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. And so let's go around and introduce our guests here while we get started. And thank you again for the resubs. Excellent. So I'd like to... This is quite strange, but I actually have to get up from my computer and go grab something from the other room right now. So,
go ahead. I'll introduce everybody. Really awkward. It's fine. Go ahead. Yes. So our first guest of the hour, I believe you are the CEO of Snuff, as Hiwanto Destroyer. You are the CEO, correct?
Yeah, I am.
Go ahead, introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself.
I am the CEO of Snuff. I've been the CEO for a good while now, a few years. I'm also one of the main FCs with Tao, and
with the great microphone. Can I also jump in here and compliment that he is one of the youngest FCs in Snuff history.
That's interesting. Also, hello, Emo. Welcome back.
Hello. Yeah, still playing spaceships for Snuff. Okay. I'm gonna hand over to Fantier.
Hi, Phantomite.
Hello.
You want to introduce yourself? Tell us who you are.
I'm Phantomite, and I have been in Snuffed Out for a very, very long time. The entirety of the Alliance, except for the last year, which I spent in No Handlebars.
Wait, why are you?
Great.
I'm back now.
You left them. How dare you? Yeah. So real quick, we have a 31 month sub from NQbus, 3 months from Baby Blue Hippo, and CS Shuffle with 38 months. And then there's another one in here somewhere. There it is. John Whitwalker with 5 months is, I guess they never miss, huh? I don't know what he means. But, and then we have a tip of $1. Yay, tip. Reminds me of that one game. But, moving on, now that we've got everybody here, something really amazing is the first question I have is if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, Hiwanto, Snuff at one point realized that all the game was coalescing into coalitions. You had, guys in low sec just kind of picking sides of the last 2 years, and then you guys came over to Goons, and I heard it had a lot to do with Jay Amazingness, but we never really had a chance to talk about the history of Snuff coming to the Imperium. So if you could fill that in for our lovely show here, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. Shadow Cartel was doing a lot of stuff with NC Dot, and one of the leaders of Shadow Cartel, Willow, eventually said to us that it was because of NC Dot saying that they were going to reinforce Shadow Cartel towers if they didn't join up with Shadow Cartel. And around this time, the moon changes were also happening. So our income kind of got owned by CCP because there was no more passive moons, which is what we relied on for SRP and stuff. And we already had a good relationship with Goons and Init because we used to fleet with them a lot on the bigger fleets against NCPL because we were and still are anti-Pan fam. We sit on the more Imperium side of the fence. And
except during the war, of course, we weren't very anti-Pan fan.
Yeah,
money talks. Let's be honest. Money talks.
I mean, it's just like if everybody's going to go somewhere having a great fight, we're gonna come along, right? Jesus.
Yeah, but the reason I ask for this is that it leads to the question is now you guys have moved on from the Imperium. You're on your own now. You still hang out with us. I still see lots of goons go on your fleets. And you're still killing NC Dot at a regular pace, like a regular clip. You're seeing lots of Dread Bombs, lots of Titans appearing. Like, you think NC Dot would be able to at least respond, but it does not feel like they are. Why do you think now was the time to go off and sally forth on your own?
So, the game is kind of getting to a point where less and less is happening because of many reasons. One of them is the big coalitions. The other is because CCP keeps pushing changes that are more safety orientated, with all the Citadel changes that are just like terrible, like the new Sino jammers, just and stuff like that. And then you also got things like what was I talking about again? Yeah, so like Citadel's just kind of push to safety, and then you have like a lot more PvE changes rather than PvP oriented changes, which means that it was kind of getting pushed into a less PvP situated game, but more PvE. And we kind of wanted to open up our targets a little bit more. That's why we kind of left. I mean, we still do stuff with the Imperium, and we still have a lot of good friends with the Imperium. Our like best allies are in it, basically, with Penisal and Space Violence, and we always have done stuff with them. And they are really good allies, and we're not going to change that up. Like, we do fleets with like Vert comes on our fleets, Jay comes on our fleets, Darkshine's Pando, and we always coordinate with them when we do the big stuff because they are really good allies. They're probably the best FCs to coordinate with in the game, and like our team does have some of the best FCs. Like Pando is arguably one of the best, or the best subcap FC in the game right now, and so is Tao. Like, those are both amazing FCs, and we're really like lucky to have them on. So yeah.
That's awesome.
So actually, I'd like to, because you are sort of a specialist group in terms of your history, as one of the, there's that classic fight between Snuffed Out and Shadow Cartel. There's sort of long simmering rivalry there, and we haven't really heard or seen much from an existence perspective in a bit. How would you guys say that things have gone for your organization? Have you like moved past that rivalry? Do you consider you guys won? You don't really care anymore? Was that a defining grudge, would you say? Can you talk about that a little bit, the whole Snuffed Out Shadow Cartel rivalry?
Fan, do you want to start off with how it all started and whenever?
Well, there's always been something between Snuff and Shadow Cartel, but I suppose it really started to come to a head. I mean, the whole this is completely true. The whole reason that the Snuffed Out Alliance was formed, starting with the Snuffbox Corp, the whole reason it was formed was as a direct response to Shadow Cartel. I'd have to take a look back at the creation, when the Alliance creation date was, but
we had a bunch of allies back then, basically.
Yeah.
That it was an alliance, it just wasn't official. And then it came to a point where, I mean, it was the heydays of faction warfare when there was like pretty large groups still being.
It was a direct response to Shadow Cartel suddenly out of nowhere. They matched us on numbers when we were just a corporation and they were just the alliance. But they suddenly started mass recruiting corps and mass recruiting people into the corps. They just ballooned. They like quadrupled in size. And that's the direct primary reason that we formed the alliance in the first place, was as a response to that.
So I just linked a battle report. This happened right after the meta show, Zero Eve, Saturday night in Metropolis. Ragnarok from Shadow Cartel gets vaporized by Snuff. Was he doing a drive-by? What happened in this situation that caused you to catch his Ragnarok?
So with this one here, I attended this this op here. I don't have the entire details, unfortunately, but Shadow Cartel, they didn't just drop the rag for a drive-by and then respond with some more caps after we brought some guys in. Basically, everything that they brought in one go was on the field at that time. They didn't have any further escalation. They were just simply being baited, and then we were simply dropping on them after traveling through a wormhole to hide the numbers.
It says Evictus was here, so maybe they were baiting them. So that's pretty cool. It just seems like, I don't know, maybe you guys can comment on this, but it just feels like LowSec, that there's too much going on in 0-0 in terms of the way that the game's being moved by CCP. A lot of the focus is on, citadels that affect 0-0, jump bridges, and so on. and it seems like the move away from low sec. But every once in a while, we see something like this, where it's like Snuffed Shadow Cartel or Pen is Out, or these low sec groups that still do low sec stuff.
I mean, the game after the boss changes, there was just kind of way less fight starters in low sec because citadels don't really have the same. Like with the old moons,
Value.
there would be
Value.
there would be an incentive. There would be something that you wanted to get out of them. And whereas with these, like you only want them if you mine them, and you don't really care about them if you lose them. So there's way less. But you still see Shadow Cartel, like Predator Elites, Corpin, Did He Say Jump, us, and a few other alliances still fighting occasionally in low sec. It's just way less.
That's a question that I have is you were mentioning some of the criticisms that you had about the direction that CCP has taken in terms of changes, particularly regarding citadels and then more of a PvE focus. What would you say, just if I gave you a soapbox, what would you say is one of the changes that CCP has made that you believe is the least healthy for the game out of the recent stuff, like in the last let's say 3 months thereabouts?
The last 3 months.
Maybe it doesn't have to be the last 3 months, but like if you're going to say like number one thing that CCP has done that you're like, this is ridiculous, we have to change the direction of our alliance, what do you say?
Was definitely moon changes, but not in the sense that like pushing towards active moon mining is fine because it makes people do stuff, but there's no incentive anymore for fights, and that was a really big thing. I was talking to Mr. V when he came back for a little stint in like June or something like that, and he was like, wow, like these guys don't really fight anymore. And I'm like, yeah, like after the boss changes, there aren't really many fights. And he was like, yeah, I'll just go reinforce an R64 and I'd get a fight. And that's how it was back then. You just reinforce a valuable moon and you'd get a fight, and it doesn't really happen anymore.
That makes sense.
Well, I think that something that I might say about that issue is I completely get where CCP was coming from and where perhaps everybody playing EVE was coming from when they wanted less passive things. You know, we were all bored refueling pauses and pulling the goo out, right? But we have things that people can do individually for their own money, but with the removal of moons, we've lost one thing that was a major, simple alliance level income source.
I mean, it's like, what would you do to force someone to come, or at least encourage someone to come fight you now? You could go after a staging citadel or whatever, but I mean, even that, they can just either asset save to it, or just within the teethering, just move everything out quietly. It's not that big of a deal for anyone.
I mean,
one of the changes that's from like an informational perspective, one of the challenges I think is back in the day you would know which ones were the R64s. I mean, people had to scout it, but that information sort of came out over the course of a decade that everybody knew where the really hot moons were. And one of the challenges I think now is, there's hundreds, actually there's probably thousands, if not now tens of thousands of refining platforms scattered around the galaxy. And nobody really knows what's what. Like, it's not like people go, oh, there's these 4 moons in Delve, and here's the ISK value for them, and those are the ones to get. I think that if there could be potentially a situation where if people were more aware, or if there was a way to see which moons were actually worth reinforcing, then you might be able to see these things returned as a conflict driver.
I think that it should go back to the way it was, but it should be changed so that some player skill can still come into it. My dream, which will never happen, my dream is that moons are passively mined by the refineries in the same way that you would have done with a POS. Passively mined, but something as simple as the materials that come out of it change ever so slightly, and you have to play some kind of interesting, creative puzzle game to refine them. And that really gives a job to people who are super good at the puzzle game. They can see that next week it's going to be this coming out of it, and they can, come up with a solution. They can put it in, and they're getting way more out of it than their neighbor who's not as good at the puzzle game getting out of it. They can make more money out of it.
How are you? That's sort of an interesting question. Is the idea of passive versus active income and the game changing and an alliance, which is very specialized, like Snuffed Out, needing to change with the times. obviously you don't have to disclose in public the things that you might or might not be comfortable with, but I'm curious from an economic perspective, what it was that Snuff used to do to make money and fund its line members, and then how has that changed over time, and how do you see things in the current modern environment? An entity like Snuff is not exactly, mining moons.
I mean,
What did you guys used to do, and what are you doing now?
we used to only
Well-
recruit rich people. That was a pretty good one. And then also there wasn't that big of investments back then. You'd buy a super, maybe. That would be kind of cool. But like there wasn't such a big population of them. You didn't need that many. Obviously that changed.
Also, Hycera was broken level 5 system because they would only spawn in Hycera, so that was a lot of money coming out of Hycera, for example, with level 5.
I just think it's.
I heard about that. I was kind of curious. How did the whole level 5 mission running thing work for you guys? Because that struck me as like a weird low sec thing that I never really.
I actually used to run level 5s for a while. It's just like any other grinding activity. Back then, it was pretty alright. But as with everything, like, the more people do stuff, and in this case, it also shares a lot of space with faction warfare, it just becomes less and less and less, like, interesting or unique, I guess. It also used to be a pretty good area to go chase people, but people have got really clever at figuring out how to do these things with very low risk. It's kind of slowed down as well. I mean, there's plenty of decent ways to make Iskin low, even though we're obviously working hard to expand into other people's, null-second stuff and mine their space whenever we can. One of the reasons we're deploying rock walls forward as much as we do.
We're making people need to have their own income. We do SRP, but like people need to be self-sufficient, and we don't really care what they do for their income. A lot of people mine, a lot of people rat, and a lot of people do level 5. It's just a mix of.
Interesting. Okay.
We don't have trouble with ISK on a personal level for people. It would just be a lot nicer because going back to the old moons, albeit with maybe some mechanical changes, would make alliance level income for SRP easier and generate content simultaneously. It's a
really good suggestion that Capku had was that they should make a module on the moons, or like a rig that would basically split the moon up, so a percentage of it would be passive, and then the rest you can mine on top.
I mean, isn't that just a bunch of excuse making, though? I mean, what we've seen from a lot of what we used to call iceberg alliances, which were entities like PL or NC. Or any sort of small elite force. You guys came out of low-sec, but you could potentially be accused of being sort of in the same boat, of wanting to be able to focus entirely on PvP without actually having to mine and do work to get the proceeds. Is there any difference between passive moon mining versus explicitly labeling actively mined moons as more valuable, such that there's more of an informational focus on which moons are actually worth hitting?
Well, I mean, if you look at like the main income for big alliances these days is ratting tax and renting being the bigger one for most alliances. And it's the same thing for us to take care of our Moon Empire. It was the same thing to take care of your Sub Empire type of thing. And there was still a lot of work for us. But honestly, I wouldn't care if moons didn't make that much money, but there was still some incentive. We missed the fights from the moons rather than the income. We are doing okay. I mean, Snuff is quite famous for like never actually being rich. We always bounce up and down in our wallet, and we're completely.
Because we got like no responsibility involved in managing that. It's literally High and Tau, and none of them are very good at economics. That's why we're broke. But we got a lot of people contributing.
Here's my question though, when it comes to the money thing. PL took it to a level that forced CCP's hand. I think that's the reason we're at now, is you had an alliance like PL who could go to low-sec and PvP, but still own 3 or 4 regions of moons and make all that passive money while never actually being ever there.
I view that as a failure of PL's enemies rather than anything else, to be.
Maybe, but you look at it like this, right? Like, if you're actively living in space, you're growing that space, you're living in that space, you're doing the thing that you're doing, it just feels like there should be more reward there. I mean, I always thought of it like this, is I feel there's too many moons in EVE, right? Even if you wanted to have forced fights over moons, I mean, Delve might have thousands of these, Delve, Kratos, and Fountain. And so how are you gonna pick? How are you gonna know what to pick and choose? Like Minton says, which ones are the valuable ones? If you had like one valuable moon in every system, then you could say, okay, I know very well that this is the moon I want to go hit because they're gonna care about this moon. And I think that would bring a better deal with the game. I think in terms, especially with low sec. Right? If you had only one moon you had to worry about in the entire system to force fights on, because that's the only moon someone's going to care about, then that would make a lot more sense. But in some situations, you might have 5 or 6 moons in one system, and the next star has none. So it's hard to look at. I hate passive income. I think it's a complete waste of. It's fucking horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the debate about this has become distorted because I see there's two separate issues here, right? There is the issue of the conflict driver, right? And that is a real challenge that we have. And then there's also the question of active versus passive income. You can have a conflict driver, which is to say something like an R64. What made an R64 something worth fighting over was not the fact that it mined money passively, right? What mattered was it was a single point source of extremely valuable income. Now then, how that income was generated, passively or actively, was not what made it a conflict driver. If you had the old R64 system, where the only difference between now and back in the day was same moons, same values, but they had refining platforms and there was just dysprosium everywhere and you had to go mine it up yourself from an active sense, those would still be conflict drivers, guys. What made an R64 worth fighting over was the fact that it was a known item that was known to be valuable, that you could reinforce at will and provoke a fight. So in many cases, the reason why I'm bringing this up in a panel, which is a bunch of snuff people, which is not exactly the place to be talking about moon mining normally, is that I think you see people like Capku and various other people who are pushing an agenda trying to conflate the idea of conflict drivers versus the active and passive question, because they want to be able to say, oh, well, we need conflict drivers, so we need to have passive income again because conflict drivers. It's bullshit.
Well, it was extreme passive income. That's why it was a conflict driver, because it was extreme passive income, which made it.
I think what made it was a conflict driver wasn't the fact that it was. I mean, we can agree to disagree on this, but what mattered was the amount of ISK that was coming out of it. Right? It wasn't that it was extremely passive. It wasn't that we don't have to do anything.
He means extreme amounts of ISK. He means it's so valuable, like a 10 billion ISK moon.
Is that what you mean?
Whispers.
Is that what you meant?
You mean the amount of money it's pulling out of that one moon, right?
Yes, I mean, why, for instance, now are, fairly good manually mined moons, why are they not fought over with such fervor as they were?
I think it's because people don't really know about them. I mean, I think it's an informational thing. Like, there are some moons, and I'm not going to say where in Delve, but there are some moons that are like double R64s.
I mean, why not tell everyone? It would just bring you good content.
Because our content is going to building titans for us to enjoy content by murdering our foes, right? So we get an advantage from that. But if CZB wanted to make things conflict drivers, what was an interesting thing for me about when they shifted to FozzieSov was when they published in a way that everybody could see every single Sov timer. Back in the day, in order to see when there was going to be a fight over an iHub or something, you needed to have recon. You needed to have scouts. You needed to actually see when a timer was, get eyeballs on a target, and then put it in a spreadsheet and let people know and organize around it. But with FozzieSov, they just let everybody know where every fight was gonna be, and every timer you didn't need recon for that. If they did that for moons in some way, so that you could look at a ranking of a system and see here's all the moons and here's how much ISK they're putting out. They're not going to do this, but I think that would provide the conflict driver that's been missing.
I mean, to be fair, when you say if somebody found out that there was where the super valuable moon in Delve was, they can't really actually realistically take it, though, have they? If they want that moon, they have to establish a permanent foothold.
But there are those. But there are those in low sec, though.
Let him finish.
It wouldn't affect you anymore because, it's no longer. It doesn't go towards your alliance income anymore. It goes towards member income mainly. That's the main thing that most of these moons go towards. So if, say, hey, I'm NC'd and all my money comes from renting Sov or whatever, and you go to my region and you're like, hey, let's hit these valuable Athanos, I'm not going to care. I'm only going to care about my staging, keep star, whatever, and you're going to have fun hitting that under the new Sino jammers and stuff. Anyways, Whereas with the old R64s, if you went and like hit, like for example, Black Legion's R64s and wiped them out, that would be a good chunk of their income gone, and that would be something they'd have to fight over because it affects the whole.
I think that's a reasonable point. I mean, you see in a built-up area like Delve, it does translate into alliance and coalition income because these products then get utilized in alliance level. Basically, it gets cycled through brokers through 1DQ1.
I mean, it's interesting too. I mean, we're still talking about moon stuff. I mean, surely there must be other ways to encourage people to get out there and fight. I mean, if we're gonna make moons an active thing and a player-driven thing and more distributed to individuals, I mean, that's a fantastic thing that makes people go out and do stuff. But then,
What do you,
like,
I mean,
is it possible to add different kinds of objectives?
Well, here's the thing, though. Like, as long as there's a rental region of the game, i.e. the drones, which can pump out, hundreds of billions to whoever happens to own the place. Like, if you look at Skill U, I'll use them as an example. We haven't seen them rampaging around the game ever since they got renters. They are happy to make their money, and they'll occasionally get involved in a fight here and there. But right before they conquered all of the drones, you would see them get involved in conflicts where it was like, oh, fuck, you need to be a little careful because they're going to be involved and they're dangerous. But now you see them making shitloads of money off renters, and they're just happy to sit back and make shitloads of money and make sure the renters are happy, right?
they're basically the culture, because what they did is they saw a dead alliance and sitting in some region, and they went and took that region from that dying alliance, and now they're just sitting there making money. They haven't deployed since they've gone there, and they've like semi-friendly with people like Horde, the surrounding entities. They're just sitting there like Ragnar did with culture, making a lot of money, which back then was the Fountain R64s, and just doing nothing.
Speaking of doing nothing, I want to segue here, and this is still stuff related. So one of the things that has been curious to me ever since leading up to the battle in HTech 5 a couple weeks ago, where we collectively popped a NC key. And then these recent incidents where Snuff and Init and friends have, blew up 5 NC Rorquals with like the single most one-sided battle report I've seen in a while. I think you guys lost literally no ISK at all while nuking these NC Rorquals.
Jump fuel, mate. Jump fuel.
Jump fuel. That's a very good point.
There's a cost there.
The hidden cost that's missing from the Lost Mails.
But is it really jump fuel, though, or is it just that we're too afraid to use Stargates anymore because we don't believe in ourselves?
That's true. It could be fear. But could you tell us a little bit about what you guys, because you guys have been blowing up NC for a long time now. What have you seen change over time? Have things changed over time? What's going on over there? Are you guys just so awesome that you're getting better and better? Is NC running into some challenges? Why is this happening?
I want to kind of go through the Rorqual thing because there was something really funny that happened because of that. So because of that whole Rorqual thing, there was 2 guys mining in the Rorquals, and I think one of them ended up getting kicked. And then some Cinder guy ended up saying something like, "Oh my god, I was in low sec, and I would drop my dread like 2 jumps from Snuff, and you guys take 30 minutes to form for some Varga," or something like that. And then everyone started spamming it in the Alliance chat in Discord, and then Vince just deleted the whole Alliance chat for the whole of the because of. And now they're like completely not mining or routing anymore in that whole region because we used an AWOX tune in one of their corps, and it's still in there because it's still in stasis, so they're all super scared and they're not ratting or PV.
Vince deleted their Alliance chat
in Discord.
We have to do that pretty much weekly. We're very bad at chatting to people.
Wow.
See, like you'd think Snuff is like a friendly alliance and talking about cooking and recipes and stuff, but like it's terrible.
Well,
that's kind of a question, which is that sort of like top level tantrum basically. Have you guys seen that NC is getting easier to kill? Is there a leadership vacuum, or is it just that shit happens? Like, have you noticed a trend? I guess is where I'm going with this.
Someone
question.
just linked it to us actually. That if you look at chat, everyone just draw attention to this before we get back to talking. That's the guy that caused the chat to be deleted. Oh, that's horrible.
Something that people might not always take entirely seriously is there is a lot of morale. It does have a big effect on morale if the leader just isn't engaging with people doesn't even just appear confident. Appearing confident is a very simple thing that could make a huge difference in both directions. If you don't appear confident as a leader, then who's confident beneath you? Every good alliance in this game revolves around a cult of personality, essentially, that can lead properly.
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, look, Matani does it. And
Bro, like,
but,
no cult of personality here. No, cult of
not at all.
personality.
But no,
it'll be a sharp PvP alliance. Like you need discipline, right? If you want to build a space empire, yeah, you need diplomacy. But like we think of blue as an idea and not something to adhere to. So like we need a cult of personality, someone to really, which is why we elected Tau.
That's a very interesting point, because see, I think about it like that, where the empire builders have to build relationships. You have to build a relationship with your guys that are going to be the directors and the leaders, and then the relationship with the people around you, because you don't want them messing with your empire building unless you want to fight them. And then even when you're fighting someone, there's a relationship there, because your Diplos probably have talked to their Diplos at one point or another. The CEOs talk to each other. But it feels like with the PvP groups, and maybe PL not so much, because I don't really consider them PvP, but even wormholers do this sometimes. They'll just appear and then slap someone around and then disappear again. And you never talk to them. You never know who they are. You never really know who's running the show. You have to play guess and check. And I think that happens a lot. But the question I have now is, NC has went away. Oh, he just crashed again. He'll be back. NC has went away from this. I guess you could call him. I don't know if you call him scary. Like everyone was scared of NC at one point. Like you look at him with fear of their super and Titan force, and you'd be like, okay,
confidence.
Right, you got to be careful.
Confidence. NC had confidence, and other people didn't have confidence versus NC. That's all.
It feels like a boxing match, right? You have the guy who everyone is scared because he's knocked so many people out in one punch, like the Mike Tyson. And as soon as Mike Tyson got into a 10-round fight, he lost, right? Like he would knock everyone out in the first round, and all of a sudden you go to a 10-round fight and he loses. And it feels like that's with NC now. NC was so scary looking that people would be afraid going in, and shit would go bad for them. And
I don't know. I mean, I'm biased, of course, but
yeah, please go ahead.
I think that NC has spent years surviving in PL's shadow, right? Like the entire reason why NC Dot in many ways has not suffered as much as they could have is because for the longest time PL was stronger than NC. NC Dot was like the place you would go to if you couldn't get into PL. PL had the stronger Super and Titan fleet, and NC Dot was shielded from a lot of the nastiness that happened to them in the most recent Northern War and all these fights in X-47. I was delighted because we finally got a chance to blow up NC Dot Titans and go after these guys without PL there, basically shielding them from consequences in the last however many fucking wars. So is it even really a question of people having a lack of confidence versus NC, or is it just that NC is being revealed for who they really are now that they can't hide behind PL?
I've got a great analogy, and you just really brought that to the light, is a big brother, little brother. You have a big brother who's maybe in high school or college, and you have a little brother who's in middle school, but the little brother is a fucking brat who likes to throw rocks at people and then run and hide behind big brother when the kids come chasing him, right? And if NC, historically, they shot the Falcon first. If you remember, that caused the war over the moons that broke up OTEC.
That was tribute wars, yeah.
Yeah, so you've had
Black Legion, yeah.
It always just seems like NC Dot would be the ones that causes the problem, and PL would have to come in and like fight for them or like take charge in order to fix things. But now you have no PL anymore. Like PL's kind of dead. So
that's a question. So I want to put this over to our guest from Snuff. I mean, what do you guys think about that? Is it really like, is NC Dot a big bad guy? Am I just talking out my ass about the PL thing? How do you see sort of the way that the power has been shifting around?
So with NC Dot, like NC was, after X-7, I think they've kind of just gone downhill, because before X-7 they got a lot of Titans, and they always have been drifting off the thing that they could beat goons in a one-on-one in Titans. And after X-7, it kind of showed that on their own keep start they can't beat goons or Imperial anymore, because they just suck. Like the coordination for that was terrible, and they just got dumpstered. And I think that was a big morale blow for all of them. And Vince has just been AFK continuously through that. And you just see them with these new FCs who don't know what they're doing. And we just come and take advantage of that. And we just always, that's what we do. We look for, these advantages we can take, and then we drop them. Like, that's what we like to do. Because NC Dot has the most Titans and Supers in the game, so they're the biggest target for us. Well, concentration of Supers and Titans.
Hi, Wanto. Maybe you'll answer this. Do you think NC is starting to become where the old NC was, as the old NC was dying? You had Mercenary Cola, or not Mercenary Cola, Morses Mihi. We're slowly getting to the point where all the good FCs and the leadership just kind of slowly vanished. And you had all these people trying to run the show that didn't know what the fuck they were doing, but they had all the stuff up until they lost it all. Like, they held these big ships, big toys, they were feared, and then they realized, oh, these guys are idiots, and we could just kill all their stuff. Is that where you think NC Dot's going right now?
I mean, since like half their fleets they merge with Horde and merge with PL, kinda, yeah. Unless they get some new blood in that is actually good at the game, I think they're just gonna go down into the dumpster with PL, because PL is already sitting in the dumpster. With like, you may as well not even call PL anymore, because they're basically mercenary code.
Oh,
Wow! Well, I mean, Elita Stops did join you guys, correct? I mean, I don't know if that's saying much.
Wow!
Well,
Dude,
look at them. They're flying fucking bombers and frigates like Retributions all the time.
Oh, no.
NC.
That's what NC does. PL can't even do that. PL's got to fly interceptors. You're giving PL too much credit here. PL cannot form much bigger than interceptors.
Wow, that just came out of nowhere,
mistaken.
dude. Like, PL is basically MC now. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Wow.
has anyone tried to kill PL off? Like, they probably could at this point, right? I think somebody could go
No,
and slap him.
the best way to kill PL off is to
ignore them?
make jokes about them and ignore them, right? Like, that's that's the thing. Their entire identity, like a lot of these organizations, are based around an identity that's very fragile. It's based around being the best of the best, and the most elite, and blah blah blah.
So,
And then if they stop having that, then who are they?
can we say Brave won then? Brave lives longer than PL? I mean, I see more big fleets from Brave, 50, 60 guys and like Serbs and stuff, than I see from PL nowadays. But this leads me... Oh, sorry, go
What you
ahead.
got, High?
Like PL is just kind of like, so you have Headliner who's just pushed out all the other FCs and taken over. So he's just kind of running the show, and he's not a good leader at all. And then you have all these corps joining from MC that aspire it. And that takes away the ability for PL to actually do stuff, because if they can't, they're shit. So if they're shit and they have like spies, then they're not going to be able to do anything in the game anymore. And you have that on top of Doom Chinchilla, who's the head super FC. And Doom Chinchilla's a massive coward, which means they're not using their supers and titans, so people aren't buying them. Which means that if you don't have all those things, you're just a shit alliance, and that's what they are now. They're just sitting there on Horde's couch with a time zone tank Citadel just fucking about.
So it's like a company that comes along that has all their brain drain, like all the quality of the company has vanished. Now all the products they're producing are shit. So nobody wants to buy their products, and they just keep getting more shit, and it just keeps rolling until eventually the company just dissolves.
I gotta been the problems with alliances. Like, it's happened to some other fairly large group as well.
Yeah.
Some of them held it north for a while, and then everybody just went, well, screw it, let's just go kick it down.
I got sort of a question regarding this, which is, as you guys have been fighting and hunting, I should say, because it's looking for fights, looking for ganks, looking for prey, basically. Who have been the primary FCs that you've been fighting against in NC Dot? Like, who is behind the wheel over there when you're going out?
Do you remember 401k, so retirement club? Like, the leader was called Zavonis or something. He's the new main blood for the EU time zone, and then for the US time zone, they have an FC called Brother Bob. He's like some nobody from Escalating Entropy that kind of worked his way up into
that
MC.
Brother Bob.
So,
I'd also like
Yeah.
to take the opportunity to
Those
say
are two
that
names.
Escalating Entropy is a piece of snuff history rather than anything else in this.
Yeah, the interesting thing about these two names is these are people I've heard maybe once or twice in the last 2 years. They're not somebody who like exudes confidence. But it's the question someone just asked in chat. We're about to go to subscriber only mode shortly. We'll go ahead and answer this one. Killa is not so much gone as on a break. I mean, everybody who plays Eve will eventually have to take a break to go play another game. In his case, WoW. We were going to get Killaby to come on tonight, but he has a prior arrangement, can't make it. But he did say hello, and he'll watch the VOD later. But the more I watched NC lately, they tried to do the Keepstar, which got slapped down. They've tried to have renters in Vale, probably one of the worst places to have renters, because then you have groups that can live in low sec that can drop on them at the drop of a hat, like what we're seeing with you guys. Is it more of maybe a hubris thing, where they just thought, okay, nobody's ever going to fuck with us, we're too good. And then when they got slapped in the mouth by us up in Declan, now everyone's waking up and going, yeah, no, maybe we can kill them a lot. Maybe we can slap them around.
I mean, it's exactly that. Plus the fact that Init has just become some amazing alliance. Like, Init is basically the new PL. They're like the spooky people. If you see Pando in a bomber fleet, you're going to run away. Like, no one can fight his, like, bomber fleet anymore, and he really carried us through that Keepstar fight, for example. Init is, like, a really, really strong entity right now, and I think everyone's kind of scared of Init in the north as well, and they are a really big crutch for us, and I think that, yeah, you're right. After X47, everyone just realized that NC is utter trash, and like PL is just going into the dumpster. So now everyone's taking their turns to shit on them, and that's why I love Snuff, because me and Tao are super young, and we don't give a shit about like any politics or whatever. Tao's 16, I'm 18, and we just don't give a fuck. We just play the game.
Wait, hold on a second. No, hold on. Go back a few lines here. You're joking, right? Like that's not real.
No, it's actually, I told you they're the youngest FCs. Like, when I started FCing, he was like 14 or something. It's ridiculous.
No, yeah, I know that, but I didn't, no, I thought
16 and 18. I didn't know that you guys were that young.
Yeah.
That young.
Tao is really, really young. That's why he doesn't care. Like, we have a great relationship because we're both super young and we don't give any...
Wait, so how is
That's
Tao 16?
awesome.
He's been the CEO, what, for 4 or 5 years now? So you're saying, like, a bunch of diehard Russians were following around a guy who was, like, 12?
Yeah, it's not good.
You need to watch the video of Tao FCing. It was like an avatar kill, like 1 second before downtime. You can listen to the difference in his voice. Like, his voice wasn't broken back then. It was super duper high. And you can tell that he's, like...
I mean,
That's awesome.
Bear in mind the picture that Tao AD had to get his parents' permission to sign up for Evo.
Okay, yeah, then now it's starting to really come along. I mean, just
That's
wow.
fantastic. I love it. It is interesting because, you know, one of the things I've noticed when we talk about age in EVE is that certain people start FCing as teenagers and get known as teenagers, right? Like, I think in everybody's mind, Alpha Star Pilot has been 14 years old for probably the last 5 or 6 years. And it's easy to forget that, for example, that Jay Amazingness is quite young. He's, I guess, older than you guys. But it's interesting where you find people who get a reputation, and then I was surprised to find out that that you guys were that young. I had no idea.
I had no idea either.
You don't come off as that young. I shouldn't say you don't come off as children because that's super condescending. But I thought it, and I was about to say it.
But no, it's. I would have never thought that Haiwanto and Tao were that young because. The other day when we did that, or not, I say the other day, a couple months back, when we did that dread bomb in Geminate, the way that they were yelling and screaming, I felt like there were a bunch of old men yelling at me and chastising me for putting them out as baits. So that's
we're gonna go ahead and
hilarious.
go subscribers only mode here, cool kids only mode. So
I heard my name. I'm still 14 at heart, but now I'm 21.
Yeah, that's frightening. The fact that Alpha Star Pilot is now 21 makes me feel old.
This is a great chance to segue because Snuff, you've been involved in this about as much as everyone else in it. And others, there has been a whole shitload, and we'll get to the Rorqual thing in a minute, but there's been a whole shitload of fights going down in Geminate. There's a SIG, I think, maybe, and then a couple of alliances, small alliances like Test, who have been harassing Geminate against the Horde that is Pandemic Horde. And we had a big fight go down, hopefully I got that link right, just a day ago. Or maybe 2 days ago, I don't remember. Maybe by Wednesday? I don't remember. But Horde warped to the gate. Like, I don't know what... looks like, from what I'm aware of, I was there in a Jackdaw fleet. We had 250 Jackdaws. Horde was in Tempests, and you had NC and Nightmares versus a 200-man test fleet of battleships, and then our Jackdaws. And they were in Geminate, and they jumped into BWF. And as they jumped into BWF, they had like 60 carriers set up on a Fortizar, putting fighters on the gate. And I guess they must have thought that the carriers with a Sinojammer and all of these Tempests and Nightmares would have won, but God, they ate shit, and they ate shit so hard. Like, they lost a fuck ton of battleships trying to, like, get away. But my question is what's your been experience with you guys in Geminate? I mean, how involved or how much fun are you having at Horde's expense?
We've been deployed to Geminate for a while. When I say deployed, I mean we have like Nightmares and Dreads there, and we've had them there for like a couple years now. When we started there, we were dropping Citadels, bait Raytarus, and we were getting a lot of fights off of those Raytarus, and then eventually they just stopped kind of fighting over them. They kind of just got bored and gave up. We've done a fair few dunks. We did like a downtime dunk where we killed a lot of caps. We've done like the boat dunk with you. We don't really do much anymore unless we're called for the bigger fights, just because like there's too much happening there, if that makes sense. Like it's too much blobbiness for us, and we're just kind of like waiting. Yeah, we like the big dunks and like the smaller.
Well, there's going to be a big dunk tonight. I don't know if you've heard about it, but Geminate Zero Eve, potentially a big dunk. If you want to join in on that. They're saying High is scared of tie-dye. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, like we hate tie-dye because we just sit there with our thumb up our ass, just kind of like chilling.
I hate tie-dye because he has things to do. He has to get back to work. He works.
But wait, hold on a second. Hold on. Not this. Tao just subscribed. Tao AD. Is he old enough to subscribe?
No, he's not.
So is that really
don't
him?
Tell Twitch. Literally, don't tell Twitch. It's probably someone fake nicking though.
It probably is, because I think I've seen him on here before. But it's just
he doesn't have a credit card from Russia. Come on.
Go ahead. Sorry.
But, yeah, I mean, wait, what were we even talking?
I guess to continue, I'm gonna
Geminate.
Yeah, Geminate, like what's we've been talking a lot about PL and NC dot and confidence and things like that, but with the question of Geminate, I'm just sort of curious as to you guys' opinion, especially if PL has become, and I just about died when you said that PL is basically MC. Like I am still just kind of getting the douche chills from the harshness of that burn. But what is you guys' take on Horde in Geminate? How things are going there? Have you any views on how you expect Horde to adapt in a post PL environment? Are they just going to become meat shields for NC? What do you guys think is going to go down?
I mean, let me talk about fucking Goblins first, because we call him
Yes,
Goblin,
please.
because that's basically what he is. So Goblins is the type of guy that he wants to be the new Machani. He wants his empire. He wants, all the followers and everything. But he's just like, he's a good leader in that he spins a fuckload. But he's just shit. So
wait, hold on a second. Well, you say he's a good leader because he spins.
Let him keep going.
Sorry.
A good example is, I wish I had my old hard drive, but it corrupted and it had the Skyblogs on it. But after World War B and when CO2 was kind of getting hit a bit.
Casino War?
The Casino
No,
War.
we
sure.
got World War B.
Yeah.
Well, we get to say the Casino War. Anyway, please continue.
Yeah, we were in World War B because we won it.
Goblins kind of contacted me and was like, hey, do you want to make some extra money? And I was like, yeah, sure. So we basically, us and PM got paid to like fight Horde by Lenny, and it got to the point where we kept winning, and then Goblins got really mad and kind of like stopped it. And I think that kind of just shows the type of guy he is. He's just one of those like backroom people that kind of just like when he doesn't get his way, he just kind of like fucking moans and cries. He's just and like the Sword Dragon thing is another perfect example. So Goon's pivot from hitting Declan to hitting Geminate, and he gets really mad at Sword Dragon because now Goons are focusing his home region and not fucking Declan, and that annoys him because he wants his little empire, and you're not letting. I just fucking think Goblins.
I love it.
So
I love the snark. Like that is just absolutely the reason I'm dying here on camera. Is I agree completely. I think you've got him dialed in pretty damn well.
So you're saying is that Goblins is the kind of guy who his mother tells him he can't get candy at the store, so he throws a fit at the store clerk, and gets really mad at the store clerk for having candy up when he can't have it. Sorry, I'm
yeah,
bad.
kind of.
World War II analogy.
Hey, I was going for a World War II because he called him Gobles, so I mean,
We called him Goblin.
no, not Goblin. He said Gobles, like the propaganda guy.
No, we call him Goblin.
Goblin!
Like,
Oh!
yeah.
Someone in chat, like 4 or 5 people in chat said Gobles. I was like, oh god, here we go.
You could call him
We don't
Goblins as
joke
well.
about that.
Goblins. That's goblins. I think works.
But I want to point out real quick. We're gonna keep going on the Horde thing, but this Horde fight's a pretty spectacular thing because thanks to Pandemic Horde and their ability to blue NC Dot whenever it's convenient, NC Dot's fleet was open to the public in the sense of it was open to Pandemic Horde. So this newbie-ish NC Dot FC let free move on. So Vertiso, as we all know, is the guy who always gets into Horde. Got into the NC Dot fleet, got into squad command, and as they were getting ready to fleet warp to escape, he kicked all of their Logi out of fleets, and then did regroup command, which pulled them all out of alignment right into bubbles. So their whole Nightmare fleet had no Logi, had no way of warping off, and got eviscerated.
That is beautiful.
Yes, it was. Because I didn't find out about it until after we had killed them all.
It really is, and you know, I always have to debate when I comment upon the organizational structure of our enemies because it's kind of like letting Aerith get on an economic show where it's like, well, if he says too many accurate things, the bad guys might be able to learn something from it. But like the strangest thing to me about Horde has been for years now in fight after fight after fight, and fights that matter to their allies, significant fights. The fact that Horde has just no security whatsoever and lets anybody in with no checks at all has repeatedly allowed us to infiltrate essentially entire fleets with just spies and ruin everything, and they just haven't changed. And it's like, you know, in Gunstorm, like oftentimes we have to lose an entire region or lose the casino war or whatever that we have to do before we're willing to learn. But you know, in the case of Horde, like they don't seem to adapt.
No, it's worse than that. It's because they relied on PL and PL's like leadership for so long to handle all their IT work. They could get rid of spies in Horde because PL would catch them. PL would say, okay, it's definitely this guy streaming your Alliance chat. I could stream Alliance chat in Horde now for 24 hours, and they wouldn't catch me. Because that's how bad it's gotten in Horde. They relied on PL to handle all the like check and guesswork of spies and potential spies and people rejoining through Jabber or Discord or Mumble. And now they don't have that. PL is such a shell that Horde's having to do this themselves, but they never set up the infrastructure to make it possible to go and do all that stuff. Goblins is either too lazy or doesn't know how to get an IT guy.
I feel bad for their newbies. Like this is, it's something that comes up a bit is like, you know, if you are a newbie and you join Brave or you join Karma Fleet or you join Dreaded or you basically join anything besides Horde, you're going to have a much better experience.
I mean, Horde does give free stuff. Like when we smart bombed the whole Raven fleet out, they gave us the Ravens to smart bomb them.
Yeah, I even got insurance on it. That was fantastic. I like that. I
remember that fucking fight. Was that like when we did it with Scorpions on the Keepstar, right?
Yeah, Keeps.
That was fantastic. Like we made so much money, and I mean, obviously, maybe they didn't quite enjoy it as much as we did. Like it was good. It was good. It was easy money.
Wow.
But we have about 5 minutes left, and I have.
We've got an interesting question here. Yeah, I'm gonna just divert here. So again, guys, when we do Cool Kids mode for the last 15 minutes, we do want people to ask questions. Like it's a fireside. Like if people have questions for anybody on the show or just want commentary and stuff. So here's a really good one from ManixRX, which is, what do you think was the event that started PL's downfall?
Villy said this a couple months back, and to repeat what he said is, they're like a hunter who owns 100-acre woods but kills all of Bambi's and now has no more deer to hunt, right? Like they killed all the small content that they could have where PL could solo fight. There's no more of that. There's nowhere where PL can get that kind of fight anymore. There's no one to play.
Issue is Headliner, right? No one, Headliner has a massive ego, like almost as big as Killer Bees. So when you have someone like that running an alliance, he's going to push out all the other FCs because he wants all the attention, and that's exactly what he did. And he's not a very good leader. He's an okay FC. So what he's done is he's basically just made everyone go AFK or leave, and now he's left with a situation where he has some shithole MC-style alliance, and he kind of just has to decide what to do.
That's a great point.
I just want to say, Hawanto, I love you, and I want to have you on the show more often because you are the shadiest bitch, and I mean that in the best way possible. And you say things that I think, and I'm like, I probably shouldn't say that because that'll cause a controversy. But man, the burns from you are amazing, and they're always on point.
We're understanding the age now, right? Like a senior in high school has no problems telling someone that they're a gigantic bitch.
If you're going to read us for filth. Also, Alana Ago, yes, I remember you from Vegas. Good to see you again. As we're talking shit about
this
Horde,
is
one of Horde's recruitment directors.
So I have one for you, and the question is if you look at all the alliances that PL has tried to bully in the last few years, most of them have resurged and are still going. Maybe they had to reform like Brave did, where they got rid of the toxicity and the shit, and then like rebuilt. But you're not. Like, PL is doing a lot worse, I would say, than Brave is right now.
I'm going to go ahead and answer it by saying, I think that Headliner, like the situation with Headliner is a symptom. I think that what you saw happen with PL was a leadership vacuum that lasted for a while, and Headliner stepped into that leadership vacuum, but you really saw a change of the culture over the last 3 years or so, where you had like the what you might call the older guard PL guys get replaced by a lot of people from toxic organizations like the Lex Arson crew. You ended up with a bunch of like former Black Legion guys. You ended up with like the generation of people that you see as like the Doom Chinchillas that like got into PL, and it's like that culture was so different, and we saw this take place in person at a couple of Vegases over the years, where you would see like the old guard PL guys kind of like looking around awkwardly, like, who the hell are these people that don't know how to party? And what are they doing here? And they're just sitting around talking about Eve. Like, old school PL rolled hard. And then basically just these edgelords came in and drove out all the talent.
I think their dinner this year at Vegas, one of the PL guys was like, I didn't know anybody there. Like, I knew Elise, and that was it. Like, apparently Headliner was cool, but, I mean, he never came to the Vegas. Apparently he stayed at the mansion that they rented and never left it. And like never came and partied, never went out.
I ran into Headliner.
I didn't see him
on Saturday.
But I got something for you. Okay, and this is this might make you all enjoy yourselves. This is what do you do if your FC keeps getting headshot? Maybe you should try a dual monitor setup.
No. No. I've seen that, and it was depressing then, but it didn't get better the second time around.
Mittens has no idea what we're talking about because he doesn't fly ships.
Speaking of, PL and stuff, like Doom Chinchilla is another big reason I forgot. Doom is like, he talks a lot, but he doesn't do a lot, and he likes the power as well.
Posts on Twitter.
I love you.
He posts a lot of pictures of his snowboard and stuff like that. So that's what he does rather than playing them online.
Cool.
Yeah. So here's one more thing too.
And he's toxic.
Yeah, Doom Chinchilla is one of those ones. I don't even touch that because he's so fucking toxic. Like, I think he hit a Twitter rampage because of something someone said on this show about the way the game was changing. I think it was Falcon came on, and he just went fucking nuts. But here we go. This is was linked to me right before the show started. This was a video, or part of a video posted by a guy on YouTube, and I can't remember his name at the moment because it's slipping my mind, but he makes once a year he does a aquarium that's Eve based, and he got it Keepstar 3D printed, and then 3D printed a bunch of little ships and turned that into a really awesome
Johnson
Eve
Stroker.
space. Yeah, Johnson Stroker, that's the guy's name. He made an Eve aquarium again. Yeah, and he's still tweaking it and working on it, but he sent me the link to the video, and I'm trying to get you that link now. But this is the screenshot of it.
Really gorgeous Keepstar model there.
Oh, yeah.
I had never thought until this second that I would want the model Keepstar. It looks fantastic.
That thing is giant, too.
That is amazing. That is absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. Actually, he sent me the video a couple days ago on Facebook, and I haven't gotten back to him, so public apology. I've been swamped with stuff, but again, Johnson Stroker had an amazing aquarium, previously speaking, with the Rourke walls and all the mining barges around, and this one is just fantastic. And dude's a badass.
Yeah, we're out of time, but there's something we skipped over that's huge. And it's huge in the sense of what it's accomplished in the game, because everyone's talked about doing this one specific thing, but nobody has done it. And now Initiative's done it, and Emo here says he can tell us all about this. And what I'm talking about is there was a bunch of super carriers killed, and these super carriers got killed because of a Trojan Rorqual. The Rorqual jumped in, activated its clone Vat Bay, which allowed a whole bunch of people to jump to the Rorqual, grab a bunch of haulers with lots of points, and tackle all the enemy Rorquals, and then the enemy supers came in and ate shit. So why don't you tell us about this, because this is amazing.
I mean, I was there for most of it, but like I didn't get to go in on the first. But like it's cool. Like we've been looking at this. It's been on the drawing board since, I mean, back when motherships were first introduced, right? The motherships had a clone base. Nobody's ever really done this. So we had Nathan from Rapid Withdrawal basically drew up the scheme and got the people ready and got the skill set up. And so
It was
fuck.
No, that was Bongalonga from Init who set it all up. Nate was just coordinating.
No, I thought it was Nate then. All right.
No,
Well,
it was-
take it from there, Hi.
Well, yeah, I mean, with the panic on the roll call, it means that you're invulnerable. So we have looked at this ourselves as well. It just means that you can tackle down the supers, and he played that escalation out really well. He waited for them to drop one super and then waited for them to fully escalate before dropping more dreads. And it's a shame that it was US time zone, since Init and Snuff are mainly EU. If it was an EU, like if they had done that in EU time zone, we would have had like 3 times the amount of dreads, and they would have all died.
Yeah.
Like their form up was just garbage.
Yeah, so to answer what makes this such a big deal, and I'm seeing if I can find this image, I fucking seem to have lost it somehow, is, for those who don't know, the CCP nerfed the panic module to prevent this from happening. When a Rorqual panics, it protects all of the mining class ships in the fleet. So all of these haulers and all these mining ships that are I guess you could say that class of ship are invulnerable while they're tackling for 7 minutes. 7 minutes is a long fucking time in a hot drop, right? Like Dread Siege for 5 minutes in one cycle, and usually they're out of there. So 7 minutes is a long time to have all of your tackles invulnerable. You can't kill him, and you can't kill the Rorqual because he's safe too. And so it's something you've always wanted to do, but the only way to make it work nowadays is you have to be locked onto a belt. And so you have to drop like an enemy Rorqual and hope for this to happen. And this is what happened. I'm trying to find the video. But what also makes it a big deal is there's a Reddit post, and I can't find it, I lost it, of Geo2G pinging for people because shit's tackled. And I think in the image, there's about 100 pings sent in a 10-minute period of please log in, please get here, please log in, we need faxes. And it just spammed over and over.
They basically said it because they knew that they had that many people in the alliance, but they also had no trust that the people had any interest in coming.
63 pings, says...
63, yeah, in the image. I'm trying to find the image real quick.
That's what you want. Like at 63 and upwards, that's when you get the real results of people logging in.
Wow. I don't even know what to say. We are out of time though, so I'm going to go ahead and close that out on that note. That's a example of the highly confident leadership that we expect from
Pandemic Horde. Because they did the same thing.
That was Guardians of the Galaxy, but yeah.
Yeah,
right.
but
so,
we gotta go.
Thanks so much to our guests. I had a great time here. I thought it was a really cool panel, and I absolutely love that you guys get to say all of these shady things that I've been thinking and not being willing to say in public. So,
There's one more person I need to say something for, which is Test, because I missed Test out. I love ProGod Legend. He's a really nice guy, but fuck me, in coordinations, he talks so fucking much. Like, it puts you to sleep. ProGod, please stop talking so fucking much.
See, this is shit that I can't say because Murata would slap the shit out of me for even trying to be like that.
Oh, God. Smarn.
That makes me happy that you can say that.
Can I say that I miss Smarn? Do you miss Smarn, Fat?
I always miss Smarn because he never actually seems to be around in spite of always talking to us.
Yeah. It's like that father we always had, or think we have at least. I mean, we never really see him, and it's very sad.
all right.
All right, we gotta go. It's been great, guys.
Thanks a lot, guys. I
Yes,
appreciate
thank
it.
you
We're
very
going to go
much.
ahead and let everybody out of the gulag and end the subscribers only mode. Thanks for watching.
next
Thanks
week.
for subscribing. Thanks for supporting us. We will see you next.
Yep, bye.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.